Hi, my name is Ty Crane, and I'm the Vice President of Operations at FL Crane & Sons. First, I'd like to welcome you to the FL Crane family. Here at FL Crane, we consider all of our employees part of one big family. FL Crane was founded in 1947 by my great-grandfather. He started in the back of a station wagon doing plaster work. From there, we have grown into a drywall, acoustical, flooring, EIFS, and metal panel company. Several years ago, the leaders of our company got together and decided that safety should be the #1 priority of the company. We feel that as a family, the most important thing of any of our employees is to ensure that they return to their family safely. When employees feel safe at work, they're more productive, they're happier at work, and they do an overall better job. Historically, the construction industry has not been the safest environment to work in. Before gone are the days that you show up to a job site wearing tennis shoes with no hard hat, working in an unsafe environment. FL Crane & Sons has put policies in place to ensure that we exceed all OSHA safety requirements. So the first step of our safety process is to bring the job site foreman and the entire project management team in for a meeting. We call this our pre-job planning meeting. In this meeting, we discuss all of the job site conditions and formulate a plan to ensure that we enter the job site in the safest manner possible. In this meeting, we discuss all job site conditions and any safety requirements necessary for this particular job. As you go through this video, you'll see the requirements we put in place to keep you as safe as possible, whether it be through using hard hats, safety glasses, cut-proof gloves, or steel-toe boots. We want to ensure that you return to your family in the safest manner possible.
My name is Chip Crane. I'm the CEO of FL Crane. I want to welcome you to our family. Today, we operate across the southeastern United States and perform over $150 million in work. In the late 80s, with insurance companies pulling from the market and raising rates, we made a commitment to start and have the best safety program of any of our competition. At the end of the day, our company's #1 goal is that all of our employees go home safe.
As Chip mentioned, the company's come a long way in its history and how we treat safety. Throughout this video, you will learn about trade-specific safety procedures the company has put in place to protect you from injury on the job. If you feel unsafe or observe someone else in an unsafe act or situation, please stop the work immediately. Nothing is worse than your family having to navigate life without you. Living with the shared responsibility of someone else's life-changing injury is also an unnecessary burden to carry. As a future ESOP participant, you will earn shares of the company throughout your tenure. These shares increase in value as the company excels. Workers' compensation and injury costs have a significant impact on our profit, and that causes share prices to go up or down. Also, an injury contributes to much lost productivity on both the injured employee and its crew, which also affects our profits and your share price. Ensure that each employee is trained with specific pieces of equipment before using those tools. As an employee, you may get asked to do a task with a tool that you have never used before. This can be because the foreman or supervisor does not know your past experience or abilities. When this happens, please stop your foreman or supervisor and explain that you need training on that particular tool. Think of it this way: were you turned over the keys to the car from your parents without some lessons? Serious injuries and death can occur when improperly using tools, so please take the time to ask for an overview. Some tools, such as powder-actuated guns, require specific training to operate them, so make sure that you pre-task plan and have this training ahead of time. It is very important to use the right tool for the job. Know the application for the tool, the limitation of the tool, and the potential hazards that come with using that tool. Inspect all tools and equipment before each shift and before using. No tools or equipment shall be operated without all guards in place and properly functioning. Never remove or modify guards. Ensure power cords are in good working order. Check for nicks, cuts, frays, loose or broken switches. Ensure cords have ground plugs and keep the cords away from water. Ensure that tools are double insulated with 2-prong plugs. When using grinders or chop saws, you must wear a face shield and safety glasses. Use proper PPE when operating tools. Glasses and face shields ensure that your eyes are protected from flying debris. Dust masks and respirators can help your respiratory system from becoming irritated when airborne ailments are present. If you are unsure when to use a respirator, please consult your foreman and the safety department for a review of the respiratory protection program. Job site safety supplies may be found located behind the rear seat of your foreman's truck. Job site safety supplies in this location include first aid kit, bloodborne pathogen kit, Clorox, fire extinguisher, safety handbook which contains the bloodborne pathogen and HAZCOM program, and the safety data sheets for the materials in which you will use. Only use machinery for its intended purpose and with proper training. You must know the load capacities and adhere to them at all times. Inspect equipment thoroughly before each use. Review the following at a minimum: mechanical condition, fluid levels, controls, emergency releases, tire conditions, fire extinguishers. Ensure that the fire extinguisher is in good condition with current inspection date. When doing maintenance on machinery, ensure that you are using the proper lockout and tagout procedures in accordance with the operating manual. Leave equipment parked on a flat surface or use wheel blocks. It cannot always be depended on that the emergency brake will function properly. When operating machinery, use spotters. Pre-task plan to ensure that you are taking the safest route and avoid property and people as much as possible. Separate training must be coordinated and completed for the following before operation: boom lifts, scissor lifts, forklifts, swing stage, mast climbers, boom trucks, and cranes. FL Crane practices 100% tie-off. Tie off when exposed to heights above 6 feet unless a guardrail system is in place. Tie off at all times when in an aerial lift. FL Crane has a policy of immediate termination for not being tied off in a boom lift. No warning for not being tied off in a scissor lift will be given. FL Crane or the general contractors for whom we work may utilize various types of fall arrest systems. Those may include personal fall arrest systems consisting of a harness and lanyard, safety nets, guardrails, warning lines, and tow boards. Scaffolds shall be erected, moved, dismantled, or altered only under supervision of a competent person. They should be constructed on a firm, clean, stable base. Unless casters are being used, mud seals and base plates shall be used to prevent shifting. Fall protection shall be utilized when erecting or disassembling scaffolding. Scaffolds should be inspected before each use. Ensure that locks and gravity pins are in place. Fully plank walking area with approved planks. Use proper guardrail systems with tow board when the scaffold reaches height of 6 feet or when exposed to a fall of 6 feet. Cross bracing does not take the place of guardrails. Instances in which you may be exposed to a fall of greater than 6 feet while the scaffold is not could be around stairwells, shafts, and windows. Scaffolds higher than 4 times its base dimension shall be tied off to a structure or use outriggers. If scaffolds are 20 foot or taller, you must have a rest area every 20 feet. Ensure that all components of the scaffold, including wheels and locks, are in good condition. Do not self-propel the scaffold by rocking back and forth. The scaffold must be moved by a ground man. Position scaffolds at correct heights to avoid awkward positions or overreaching when installing materials. Proper positioning is 14 inches from your work surface. Use personal fall protection when guardrails are not in place. Be aware and follow tagging system. Ladders on the exterior of the scaffold must be positioned on the end with functioning gates and have rest areas every 20 feet. Use care when climbing ladders. Ladders tend to cause many accidents. If a safer mean for accessing an area can be used, ladders should be a last resort. Inspect the ladder before each use. Inspect the ladder for cracks, bends, and proper step connections. Make sure that rung locks are in good condition, and ensure that ropes and pulleys work properly on extension ladders. Each ladder has anti-slip feet. Ensure that those feet are on the ladder and in good condition. Choose a safe location away from doorways and uneven floors. Stay 10 feet away from power lines at all times when using a ladder, and ensure that you are on firm, level footing and away from vehicles. When utilizing an extension ladder, extend the ladder 36 inches above the landing and tie the ladder securely to the structure at the top. You also need to stake the bottom of the ladder if possible. The base of the ladder should be 1 foot from the wall for every 4 foot of height. A good method for checking this is also to put your toes at the base of the ladder and extend your forearm straight in front of your body. The tips of your fingers should touch. Job sites can oftentimes be muddy. In these situations, make sure that the steps to the ladders are clean, the grab rails are free of mud, and that your shoes are clean also. Keep the area at the base of the ladder and the area at the top of the ladder free from material and clutter. When climbing a ladder, face the ladder keeping your body within the boundaries. Make extra trips if there are tools to be moved, or utilize a hoist to get the tools at your working location. Utilize the 3-point technique, maintaining 3 points of contact with the ladder at all times. Use the right ladder for the job. Never use a step ladder in its closed position or lean it up against the wall. Make sure it is fully opened. Do not climb the wrong side of the ladder and do not walk the ladder. Take unfit ladders out of commission. Mark them for non-use and return it to your office for disposal.
This presentation will provide the necessary information to understand the hazards of silica exposure, how to identify silica exposure, and controls that can be put in place to protect against silica exposure. Silica is one of the most common substances on Earth. It can be found in many materials found on construction sites. Silica is in sand, concrete, drywall, countertops, cement board, tile, rock, granite, and many other materials. Anyone who cuts, grinds, saws, drills, chisels, or demolishes concrete, mortar, drywall, sand, or rock have the potential to expose workers to hazardous silica-containing dust. Silicosis is a lung disease caused by breathing small pieces of silica. It is not a reversible condition and there is no specific treatment. Due to these risks, a new silica standard was issued by OSHA. The new OSHA silica standard lowers the permissible exposure limit to 50 micrograms per cubic meter over an 8-hour day. This is 1/5 of the previous PEL of 250 micrograms per cubic meter. Companies have 3 ways to comply with the new standard. Table 1 was created by OSHA to assist companies in understanding what the controlled requirements are for certain activities listed in the table. The second way to comply is to use objective data provided by manufacturers of tools like Hilti or DeWalt or other third-party groups showing that employees' exposure would be below the PEL. The last way to comply would be to conduct personal air sampling of employees during the activities they perform and use the data to select the appropriate controls needed if the exposure exceeds the PEL. The standard called for the development of a silica exposure plan. There will be more on this to follow. Your project superintendent or foreman is designated as a key competent person. If you wear a respirator more than 30 days per year to protect yourself from silica, you may request to have a voluntary medical exam. You may have this performed at no cost to you if requested, and you will be paid for your time to complete. This presentation informs you of important aspects of silica exposure and dust control. If additional information is needed, please contact Doug Leslie, the Corporate Safety Director. Housekeeping practices must be used to prevent additional dust exposure. The use of dry sweeping or cleaning with compressed air is prohibited. To clean, you must use floor sweep compound to control dust. Use a HEPA vacuum or wet sweep. The new rule requires the following contents to be in an exposure control plan. List of all tasks involving exposure to silica. A description of how silica dust will be controlled. Housekeeping measures that will be taken to reduce dust. How the employee will restrict access to only trained employees, thus protecting other workers or the general public. Employees must be trained in general awareness and the controls to be used to protect them from silica exposure. A competent person must be on site while activities are being performed which generate silica dust, and understand what his or her responsibilities are under the standard. Table 1 was prepared by OSHA to give companies an easy way to comply with the new standard. Table 1 provides a list of equipment and tasks where exposure to respirable silica is known. It also shows where engineering controls can be used to reduce the exposure and prescribe where a respirator is required depending on whether a task is performed for 4 or 8 hours. An example of an engineering control list on the table would be when using a handheld impact hammer drill, use a drill equipped with a shroud and dust collection system. Under this example, a respirator is not needed to perform this task, whether performing this task for 4 or 8 hours. Not all activities involving material containing silica are listed in the table. Refer to the SDS sheets if the material contains silica. If an activity involves silica exposure and is not listed on Table 1, refer to the Exposure Control Plan or call Doug Leslie, the Corporate Safety Director. Ventilation can help reduce the exposure to dust in the work environment, but cannot serve as the sole engineering control. When dust cannot be eliminated, personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, such as a respirator, can be used. Before using a respirator, you must have a medical evaluation form completed and reviewed by a licensed physician to ensure that you are capable of using a respirator. A fit test is also required before using a respirator. Your employer has a respiratory protection program that is available upon request. Many tool manufacturers have developed tools designed to be compliant with the new standard. To be in compliance, the tool and vacuum should be made by the same manufacturer to ensure proper airflow. Improvised attachments are not acceptable. OSHA has made it very clear that dry sweeping and cleaning with compressed air is prohibited. Housekeeping must be performed using a HEPA vacuum, using wet sweeping methods, or using sweeping compound to reduce dust exposure. When performing a task that creates silica dust, you must have a plan to reduce exposure to others on site. There are several materials that FL Crane & Son employees may encounter on the job site that contain silica. Until additional data becomes available, SDS sheets and Table 1 will be used in determining when engineering controls or protection is needed. Examples of tasks which you may be asked to perform includes but are not limited to cutting, rasping, and routing for drywall installation, sanding during drywall finishing, hammer drilling into concrete for installation of anchors, cutting cement backer board, cutting cement board siding, also known as hardy board, cutting and or grinding stone siding, cutting and or grinding granite or quartz countertops, cutting ceramic, marble, or other stone tile, and of course housekeeping activities. With the exception of drywall installation and drywall finishing listed above, Table 1 prescribes an engineering method suitable to control dust below the exposure limit. Anytime engineering controls can be used as outlined in Table 1, they should be followed. When Table 1 does not provide an acceptable engineering control and the material contains silica, You must wear a respirator after completing a medical evaluation form and being properly trained and fit tested.
Inspect stilts before each use. Look for deterioration of foot pads, straps, buckles, and structural members. Ensure that the work area is clear of clutter, debris, and obstructions, and take small steps and keep weight above your feet. Keep work close and within reach, and be careful when changing directions. Guardrails must be raised to an appropriate height when using stilts near an elevated edge. If guardrails are not able to be raised, workers will not use stilts if exposed to heights greater than 6 feet. Workers will not use stilts in stairways or working on scaffolds.
Hi, my name is Teresa Murphy. I'm the Loss Control Coordinator for FL Crane & Sons. I work with the Corporate Safety Department and I handle workers' comp. To report an injury, accident, or incident, you should call one of the following as soon as possible: the Corporate Safety Department, Doug Leslie, the Safety Director, or myself, Teresa Murphy. In the event of an injury requiring ambulance transport, hospitalization, amputation, loss of an eye, or death, contact Doug Leslie or myself and your division manager immediately. If you are injured on the job, it is your responsibility to report all injuries, regardless of severity, to your foreman immediately to assure prompt authorization for treatment and payment of medical expenses. If you do not report the incident and decide at a later date to claim injury on the job, workers' comp may not cover the injury. Contact the Corporate Safety Department immediately so treatment authorization can be made to the medical facility. Provide Safety Department with information necessary to file your workers' compensation claim. This will assure prompt payment of medical expenses and any applicable lost time compensation due you. A post-injury drug and/or alcohol screen may be required at the time of an injury requiring medical treatment. If your injury requires a doctor's visit, you would need to get a work status form from your doctor. If your injury requires multiple visits to the doctor, you must get an updated work status for each visit. If the doctor lets you come back to work with restrictions for light duty, FL Crane will find work to accommodate the restrictions. If your doctor determines that you cannot work, you must obtain a release from work note and turn it into the Safety Department for the workers' compensation lost time compensation to begin. At the conclusion of your treatment, you must obtain a return to work authorization form from your doctor and turn it into the Safety Department promptly. Contact me, Teresa Murphy, in the Corporate Safety Department if you have any questions about your workers' comp claim, light duty availability, or require assistance with your claim. If you are the foreman on the job, your responsibilities are to report any and all injuries, regardless of severity or whether or not first aid or medical treatment was required. Determine the severity of the injury and appropriate treatment. For example, first aid, clinic, emergency room visit, or ambulance. The foreman or a person assigned by the foreman will transport or accompany the injured party to and from treatment. They will remain with the injured employee until treatment is completed and the employee is released. If the injury is serious enough to require an ambulance or overnight stay in the hospital, the person responsible for transporting and accompanying the injured employee will stay at the facility until a family member arrives and communication with the Safety Department has been established. Investigate, determine when, how, and why the accident occurred. Make note of any witnesses, listing names and phone numbers. Report the injury to the Corporate Safety Department immediately by phone to provide information to file the Workers' Compensation First Report of Injury. Complete the FL Crane Incident Accident Investigation Form and return it to the Corporate Safety Department as soon as possible. Collect the employee's work status form after each medical visit and provide it to the Corporate Safety Department promptly. Advise the Corporate Safety Department immediately when an employee returns to work or if he or she misses work the following day.